What's up, guys? I was just in a car for 12 hours. I got tons of energy right now. And I want to talk to you about risk aversion. This is another one of the videos that's about a concept, abstract concept, that if you can kind of learn to articulate and be aware of, it's going to be helpful and allow you to make decisions in your life that are more likely to bring a better lifestyle. Okay? And so this video is going to be about risk aversion, because this is a concept that a lot of people talk about. Like, if you look into what makes more entrepreneurial personalities, people will often say that those kind of people are more risk averse, right? Which means that you can tolerate higher levels of risk than most people. Because again, most people will they will make decisions that focus on certainty in life and not risk. However, the reality is that all people like certainty, even people who are perceived as risk-taking. And so I'll take myself for an example in this situation. Like, I have recurring behaviors that people tell me indicate that I'm not risk averse, right? Being willing to go to a foreign country and just live there, even though I didn't know the language, didn't know too many people there. You know, that it's a risk that I was willing to take, right? Or even with the eBay work and on entrepreneurship in general, most of my friends in my physical life, like my personal life, not you guys, most of my friends in my personal life view everything that I do as incredibly risky. And they have no interest in doing it themselves because they think that ultimately, like, it's just gonna probably result in failure because everyone's been told that most businesses fail, yada, yada, yada. And that they'd prefer to do the traditional route of getting a degree and getting a job, right? And so from this perspective, I seem to be the one who's more willing to take a risk, right? Because of the way that we've been told to think about growing up. Like, you need to get established, you need to get certified so that you can have a job, so that you can provide for people and have financial independence, right? But from my perspective, they are the ones taking the risk. Because if you have a job, you can lose it. If you rely on other people to give you your lifestyle, you can lose it. Like, if you do anything aside from what makes you happy, then you are committing to having a shitty life. Like, I cannot even fathom doing that. I would consider anything that doesn't make me happy the riskiest decision that I could possibly take. Like, even just trading 6 months of time being unhappy so that you can be happy in the future, right? That is a huge risk, like an incredibly huge risk. And that's what's interesting, because I want to point this out to you guys, because a lot of people talk about this concept of risk aversion, that, like, you need to be more willing to take risks if you want to succeed. But that's not true. It's not that you need to be more willing to take risks. It's that you need to be aware of the risks that you already take, right? A perfect example of this is traveling. And there's a lot of people who are scared of getting in an airplane. They are literally terrified of it or nervous about airplanes. And maybe that's a few percentage of people, but there are tons of people who are just generally uncomfortable with flying, right? You know, that's a risk you're choosing to take. But the reality is you are way more likely to get hit by a car or die in an automobile accident. In fact, that's one of the most likely ways that you're gonna die. And most of us take that risk every single day, multiple times. And yet, we'll do other things and then judge people for taking what we perceive as big risks. And then we step in a car. Like, it's just really hypocritical. And So my point of this video is to share with you that risk aversion really isn't about learning to tolerate more risky activities. It all boils down to you being more aware of the risks that you already take, right? And really think about things, because I'll get into the happiness thing earlier. A lot of us make decisions where we do things now that we don't really like or don't actively enjoy, but they're gonna enable us to have more freedom in the future, right? Like, that's a recurring theme in most people's lives, and it absolutely was a recurring theme in my own life before I got into entrepreneurship, right? And what I'm getting at here is that you need to develop a sense of what makes you feel joy, because any day that you spend away from what makes you feel joy brings less change into your life, even if you think that you're trading it for a better future. Most of the time, change comes from being a memorable person, being cheerful and positive, and interacting with other humans. The interaction with other humans, combined with a cheerful, positive outlook, is the only surefire way to ever guarantee happiness in your life. It doesn't matter about your skills or any of that. What matters is about your ability to meet new, interesting people and spend time with them, right? To develop friendships with people who you would die for, you absolutely love, who know you inside out. In order to have any of these things happen, you really have to look at your lifestyle. And you have to learn a lot about yourself as a person. Because again, most of us are willing to take risks. Most of us, almost all of us, work jobs that we don't necessarily like, knowing that someday we'll be able to do more things that we do like, right? And that's what makes this worth it. Is knowing that in the future, I might not like this now, but in the future, it's going to do good things for me, which is a great way to think. I mean, that sounds great in theory, and honestly, it does play out that way sometimes. You know, like there's tons of times with my eBay work that I wanted to like give up or stop it, right? There's times that I contemplated getting my store banned, but I stuck with it, you know? Like you have to get through all of that stuff. And it's important to be able to identify when you're just telling yourself something versus when it's actually how life is playing out. Like, okay, let's think of an example here. Imagine that you love photography and you go to school and educate yourself about photography. I think in this scenario, because you've identified what you love, educating yourself is a fantastic decision. And maybe there's some classes that you have to go through that are general ed classes that you don't like, right? But you just have to get through them now, and then you're going to be able to do the stuff that you want to do. In this situation, it totally makes sense to take that risk of being away from your happiness because it brings more happiness into your life, right? But imagine that you're in school and you're not really sure what you want to do, and you're in school. You're paying for it, or your parents are, or something is. And then in this scenario, you're telling yourself, oh, you know, I'm just getting this degree. It's going to put me in a position that, yeah, I don't like any of the work that I do now, but it's going to put me in a position in the future where I can make more decisions, right? If you're in that scenario, that is a flag. And I would encourage you to look at your life and pinpoint the moments in your life that you enjoy. you find some kind of joy in. And it doesn't have to be all the time. Like, for me with video games, for example, I love video games. I find great joy in video games. However, I cannot play video games all day. I become detached and unemotional and numb to them, and I don't find any joy in them, right? That's just because I'm playing them too much. I still find joy in them in some way, at some point, right? So you don't have to find joy in the thing constantly, but you have to look at your life and find something that does bring you joy sometimes. And it's unique to whoever you are as a person. Now, once you've identified that something that brings you joy, you have to make your whole life about trying to bring more of that joy out, about trying to expose yourself to even more of that thing that brings you joy. That's the key to being successful and to being happy. It all starts with identifying these tiny little feelings, because most of us start out in a lifestyle that we're not super happy with, right? Very few of us just get plopped into the world in happiness and fulfillment. Like, that doesn't really happen often at all. Most of us come in with a great deal of some form of shackles and hardship. And unfortunately, a lot of people never escape those shackles, right? But we all can at this point because of our access to the internet. So what you need to do is pinpoint these little things that bring you joy, and then make your life about those things. Make your life about talking to people about those things. Make your life about surrounding yourself and spending time with people who like those things whenever you possibly can. And, you know, it's not easy. But ultimately, if you identify something that brings you joy, and you are making decisions in your life that don't have anything to do with that, you are taking the single biggest risk that you can take. Because if you don't make your life about the things that bring you joy, or at least make your future about it, like if you're going to college and you know what you love, that's amazing, absolutely amazing. And even if you don't like your classes right now, it's worth it, because you're putting yourself in an environment where you're around people who think like you, and even if the degree doesn't work out, you're gonna meet people, you're gonna network, you're gonna, like, amazing things that you can't even comprehend are gonna happen because of your interactions with these like-minded individuals who enjoy the things that you enjoy. So please, if you are making decisions in your life and what you enjoy isn't even a factor, that's a big flag. And that's a good indication that you should look at your life and try and focus more on those little things that bring you some level of joy. All right, guys, thanks for watching. See you next time. Ciao.